Okay, welcome to the video for data collection, and we're going to be talking about bias today. So just a quick overview of bias in data collection. We're going to go through these examples shortly, but at the moment I just want to clarify some terminology, so make sure that you take some notes down around these definitions so that you're using this terminology in your assessment. So basically bias, the word bias when we're talking about sampling, survey sampling, is that tendency for the sample statistic to over or underestimate the particular parameter. So we'll go through the examples there. Okay, we need to actually get a good representative. Okay, so basically you just can't survey everyone in Australia in an afternoon. So if I sent you off to do a survey, it's really not possible. There are lots of limiting factors, and therefore in order to get an idea we take a sample. So we'll go into all those details a little later in the unit, but when we take that sample, it needs to represent all of the different things within that population. So we want it to be representative. Representative of the sample, of the population that we're taking it from. So bias will occur if that survey sample doesn't accurately represent the population. So when you're looking at an unrepresentative sample, it's called sample bias. Okay? So if you're only asking particular group of people instead of everyone from that population, and I use people, it's not always people, then you're having a sample bias occur. However, we also can have a response bias. So a response bias, okay, when we look at that, that refers to problems in the measurement process. So that measurement process are things like the environment that you conduct, where you conduct the survey, the types of questions that you ask and how you ask those questions, you know, and that state of the survey respondent. So how that person or the whoever's responding to that survey, what kind of state that they're in, thoughts, perceptions that they already have. So what we're going to do is just thinking about the different types of bias, and the fact that what it will do is skew the data. It will either over-represent certain aspects, or it will under-represent certain aspects. We're going to have a look for bias over here. So basically, we'll go 1 to 4. So doctors at 3 hospitals were surveyed to find out if more government funds should be allocated to improve hospitals. So first of all, these are government funds. So I look at that and I think government funds means that it's for everyone across Australia. And if we are talking doctors being the only people that they survey in a hospital, and only 3. So government being across Australia, only 3 hospitals seems not really enough to represent. I mean, we've got more than 3 states. That's not even 1 from every state. So already that's a bit of an issue in the environment. So where you've chosen to conduct the survey and how widespread. So that's a sample bias. Doctors. So again, another sample bias here. Only asking doctors in a hospital. If I ask doctors at a hospital, they're going to go, yep, for sure, because their whole job is to, you know, do everything they can to help their patients. So they're definitely going to be in favour of funding, no matter what. But if you ask a hospital administrator who has to deal with budgets and allocations, it may be different. If you ask people that are outside of hospitals, who don't have a vested interest because they work there, you might also get a different response as well. Okay, so the response bias that we have here is the fact that only people from hospitals were asked, and therefore those respondents have a bias because they have a vested interest in this actually going one way, so getting more funds. Only asking doctors in the hospital, sample bias. So you're not actually looking at everyone across the hospital if you were just surveying in there. So there's quite a few in that one. Number 2, 100 school children were surveyed to find out whether homework should be abolished in schools. I bet you can pick up, just like I did, what the problem is here. So straight away, school children. You ask any kid if they want to have homework totally cut out, they will all go, yes, for sure. And therefore, it's going to over-represent the yes response and not actually see whether or not that's, whether that's an actual good thing that should happen. So if you asked teachers, parents, students, and community members about this, they have a much wider and less vested interest. So school children can only see they're too involved in school, and they have a vested interest in that question going one way. But if you asked teachers and parents and all these other people who are thinking outside of someone just having to do homework, but what the benefits and the negatives of homework are on family, on the student, on their education, all of those sorts of outcomes, you would get a different response. Okay, so number 3, 5 families were surveyed to find out the average number of hours Brisbane families spent watching TV. So a couple of issues here. 5 families. How many people are in Brisbane? Like, how many families in Brisbane do you think they are? Way more. 5 is a really tiny sample, and as you will learn as we go through this unit, the larger the sample, the better your and more representative your statistics will be. So 5 is nowhere near enough to link with Brisbane. Not at all. Not at all. And then they're having a look at number of, so they haven't actually told us where in Brisbane. I'm assuming that they surveyed in Brisbane. They haven't told us where in Brisbane, and that's an issue because there are different socioeconomic areas in and around Brisbane. People that struggle financially aren't able to do as many things as people who are more comfortably well off. For example, if you struggle to put food on the table, to have enough money to just pay your bills, it's really difficult to pay for dance lessons, to have a boat that you take out on the weekends, to spend your time off holidaying, or all of those sorts of things. What you can do is you can watch TV. So all you have to have is a TV set, and everyone has access to the free-to-air TV. So it is likely that people in lower socioeconomic areas watch more hours of television than those who are in more affluent areas and can afford to actually use their leisure time in other ways. Okay, so last one. 10,000 people at a sporting event were surveyed to find out if the national anthem should be sung at sporting events. Now, I look at that and I think, okay, if you're at a sporting event and we're talking about the national anthem being played at a sporting event, then you probably want to ask the people that come to the sporting event. So that kind of makes sense. 10,000 sounds pretty good to me. That's a large number. So you can't hardly see that. 10,000 is a large number. It is all about being at a sporting event. They're at a sporting event. My only issue with this one is that they are at a sporting event and they're talking about all sporting events. So if you're going to make a complete judgment call off this survey about whether or not people want the national anthem sung at all sporting events, so football, tennis, cricket, God, I don't know, I'm not very good with these. But either way, if you're only asking one, so what if you are at cricket and lots of those people there are totally for national anthem. You know, cricket is, totally making this up, I don't know enough sports to know whether this is right. But if at cricket, all of those fans, cricket fans, are real big supporters of the national anthem, and they'd be like, you can't take that away, need to have that at the... Okay, that would be fine if we were looking at for cricket events. But if we only ask at one type of event, then all of the other sporting events are underrepresented. Okay, so that's an environment one, it's a sample bias. So it's just where the environment that they've decided to do it in. Lots of people, which is great, they're getting a good spectrum of all different backgrounds, and you know, those respondents will be across, but the one thing they all have in common is that they're at one sporting event. So if you're talking all sporting events, you should be surveying at multiple, probably venues and sports. Okay, so make sure you, you know, sit down, think about, and have taken notes around these, so that you understand how to choose when you read through survey details. You can spot the bias, and you can talk about or describe and explain why it's a bias and how it would affect the outcome. These are things that you'll be doing in your assessment.